your host Becca, and where's my shoes? Sorry. And today on this podcast, I try to make it fun, light, and entertaining. But really thinking about it, there's something I want to talk about. So it may not be as funny, and it might be. I don't want to say sad. It's not gonna be sad, but I have a feeling that if I can help somebody who else is in this position or whatnot, I would like to speak out. So today's episode is going to be about living with parents who are sick, who, went from energetic to becoming almost like a full-time caretaker, feeling burnt out. And yes, I have permission to share this, and this is just my experience. This is what I went through, but I figured somebody out there may also feel that way, so that's why I wanted to talk about it. So growing up, I come from a blended family, and I lived mostly with my mom, and then my mom and my stepdad. And they met when I was about 9, I think. And for the last few years, I'd probably say for about, I want to say about 3 years, 4 years. It's been, no, I would say even more than that. Probably the last 5 or 6 years, it's been really tough. Both my parents, I wouldn't say they were athletic or they were running at miles and exercise and all this stuff, but they were traveling more, they were doing all these things. And then my stepdad, or my dad, because he is my dad to me, got sick, and he had cancer, which he's beaten. He's in remission right now, which a round of applause, cheering. Woo. Yes, a round of applause. Oh, that's loud in my ear. But it gotten worse, and it was just mostly my dad who was sick, which was fine because me and my mom could, we tag teamed, and we were doing more, and he was in remission, all this. And then all of a sudden, I would say about probably about almost 4 years now, my mom got really, really sick. And it was very shocking because my mom, I wouldn't say she was, I want to say, when I say not healthy, I don't mean she was sick all the time, but she was she didn't have any real she had arthritis, she had a bad back, and stuff like that, but it was really fast. So she had actually a tumor on her foot, and how that came to be was that we found a lump, and at first they thought it was muscles or tissues or whatever, so we weren't really, really concerned, and it kept growing. So in 2019 she had a tumor taken out of her foot, and so she had surgery for that, and she had plates and all this stuff. So she relied, and like I said, this is just my experience, and I know people are going to probably be like, well, you could have moved out, that's not who I am. So my mom had that done, and my dad was, he was driving, he was able to do stuff, so he was helping me out, which I'm grateful for. Then, the pandemic hit, and I got COVID, my mom got COVID. It is what it is. I don't want to talk about that because I know how people feel about COVID. So then after that, we had a pretty good, I want to say, year or two where everything seemed, I guess, quote unquote, normal, fine, whatever. Then my dad needed back surgery, which was, I want to say 2021. So just, yeah. And then, he was home, he was fine. We had blah, blah, blah. Then and then I got a phone call when my dad was still in the hospital telling me, and I know that my dad has cancer. It came back. It was melanoma. That was a big shock. He got treatment, he got all that, and then, like I said, then so we did all that. It was crazy because we were also moving at the same time as this diagnosis and his back surgery. So we finally decided that we're gonna move closer to family, come back to my hometown, where we have more family, friends, and all this. So we're like, okay, cool, let's do that. And I moved with them. And now I know I could have stayed in where I was before because I had a great job, everything, I have friends and all this stuff. But in my heart of hearts, I couldn't leave my parents. Especially when I know that my dad was getting sick, because there is a age gap between my parents. And so I didn't want my mom to be alone. And then I know, like, if something happens, yeah, it's about a 4-hour drive and I could do it. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving them that far. Now, when we moved to my hometown, I could have just gotten my own place and just, help them set up, got ready, and then I can get my own place. But with the housing and everything like that, how it is, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna live with you guys because it just made more sense. So I would say around, I think like 2022, like I said, my mom they were in Florida, because there were snowbirds, so they would go to Florida for 6 months in the winter because my mom can't do winter, which I don't blame her. And I would also go visit them in Florida. But one day randomly, my dad called me at like 7 in the morning. I was on my way to work and said that there's something wrong with your mom. He doesn't know what it is. Could I talk to her? So I'm thinking, okay, maybe she just has a cold, blah, 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 whatever. But her memory wasn't there. And my mom was very sharp. Like, she remembers stuff from back in the day. So when my dad said that, it was kind of like, okay. So I talked to my mom, and I did notice that she wasn't acting herself. Now, my mom had a cold, so I'm like, okay, maybe she just took, too much cough syrup, or she took something and that's what it was. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, just leave her let her go sleep it off, and then, check back with me, because I'm already going to work. And all morning my dad kept saying, no, there's something wrong. So I'm like, okay, take mom to the urgent care. And so they went to urgent care, and her memory was just going, and they couldn't figure out why, because like there's a week, even now, like 3 years later, she does not remember that week. And what really got my dad was, like, my mom loves Christmas. My mom's the queen of Christmas. And she put up her, like, they had the tree up in Florida and stuff, and like literally the next day after Christmas she took it all down, which is not like my mom. Like, my mom always waits to at least almost New Year's sort of area to take it down. And then, but like, she had it down. That was it. So she does have some memory and stuff. So we finally figured out that she has seizures. Now, what really kind of got us concerned is that we think she had seizures since she was little, because I remember growing up, she would get kind of like space looks and kind of, just look off to the side, like mid-conversation. Like, so to us, it was like, oh, the mom's just in La La Land again. So to us, it was normal. But something, I don't remember, I think like it was the red tides or something like that in Florida. And for some reason, it messed with my mom, because I guess there was something, and then it was also RSP or RSV, what it is. That was also, affecting children, older adults. So all that combined, and she had a cold, that they think that's what sparked the seizures come on. So that was very scary. So I had to fly down to Florida, help pack up everything, and help my parents come back home, because they had driven because they had the animals. So me, my mom, my dad and I were driving back and forth, and then my mom was just resting and she was very confused. We got back home and we were able to get like the ball rolling. Like we saw her doctor, we were able to see a seizure doctor. I can't remember the name, so I apologize. So for about 2 years until we got the medication kind of settled, it was hard because my mom couldn't drive, and so a lot of it fell on me to help take care of my parents. And yes, my dad was once again quote unquote okay at the time. You know, there was still some restriction he had, like he didn't feel comfortable driving at night, he couldn't really drive for long periods of time, which was fine. And at the same time too, my mom had to still, you know, go see her other doctor, which was about a 4-hour drive away from where we're living. The reason why we wanted to keep that doctor is because he had done her foot and her hip surgery and her arm. So no, so he did her foot and her arm. So she wanted to go back for her hip. So we would have to go back every couple months. So we made it like a girls' trip. So my dad took her a few times, I took her the rest, and we would go and we would spend the night. She would get whatever checkup was done, and then we come back home. And yes, it was very, and then, you know, then last year my dad got really sick because he is a diabetic, and he had gotten a cut on his toe. And my dad is very stubborn, and my mom so he went to go visit my mom in Florida, and he was doing something outside. I think he was painting a fence, and he didn't wear socks with his shoes. Got a little cut, just a little cut. And then he came back home, and then he went to go see one of my siblings out in BC, and it got infected because he didn't take care of it. And now I didn't know that he got a cut on his toe, so I didn't realize that it was infected. And then I think when my mom got home, she saw it. I don't remember how the whole situation I was finding out, but then, so then he had to go see a foot doctor. He went to go get foot care and all this stuff, and they said, no, you have to go see like a specialist. We went to go see the specialist, and unfortunately, this doctor I'm not a big fan of. He's very like kind of poo-pooing things, and just looks at my dad's toe for like 2 seconds and be like, no, he's fine, you can go. And I'm like, no dude, like he's in so much pain. Like my poor dad was on like morphine and just tired, and he was sleeping most of, and that's not like my dad. Like my dad, you know, he's always mowing the lawn, and he was so unbalanced. That was the big thing, is that he was falling all the time. And my dad is very independent, so he wants to do everything. Like he still thinks he's 20, so we have to remind him, like, Dad, you're not in your 20s anymore, you can't be doing this. And so anyways, he was on medication, he was just tired. He would, you know, it's been a few times we had to take him to the hospital, and it was tough because at the same time my mom wasn't driving yet, so I had to, you know, I was driving with her. He had a lot of medical appointments, and so finally, you know, we were trying to get to a good place. He had surgery to remove his toe. Oh no, sorry, I'm gonna backtrack that. Before he had surgery to remove his toe, they were trying to sell their house in Florida, so me and my uncle and my brother drove down to Florida, packed up what they wanted to bring back to Canada, and drove back to Canada. So we were gone for almost a week. And then at that time my dad was okay, like he was able to walk the dogs, he was using a cane and all this stuff. And then it seemed like it just went downhill so quick. And you know, it's hard being the child of older adults who are sick, and it happened so quickly. That's what scared me. And you know, my siblings, I love them to death, they are great, but it's different. And yes, I know people can be like, well, you could have left, you don't take on the burden. That's not me. I'm very close to my parents, and I did move out for a bit, and I didn't like it because I was always worried about them. So I decided to move back home. They didn't force me, like, you know, they kept saying like, you should move out, you can have your own life. I'm like, first of all, even if I moved out, I have no life. Two, I'll be coming here every damn day to eat my meals and like do laundry and all that. Like, I'll be bored. No, and they're like, oh, you can get roommates. I'm like, first of all, I have watched Forensic Files. I've seen things. Like, no, I can't. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to live with you guys. And so, you know, but I knew because my aunt was in the same position as me when she was taking care of my grandparents. And so I kind of seen a bit of that. But when it happens to you, it's like, oh my God. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna survive this, but you do. And yes, there are times where I snapped because, you know, you're tired and I'm working full time. And then I got sick for a few months. Let's see. For about 4 months, I got sick. I was hospitalized for about 3 days. And that threw everybody into a loop because I was quote unquote the healthy one. You know, so when I was in the hospital, everybody did believe it was me. Everybody kept thinking it was my parents because, like I said, I was the quote unquote healthy one. And so when I was in the hospital, I felt guilty because, you know, my mom was splitting her time between helping my dad and taking care of me. And so then I felt bad because I wasn't able to do a lot of stuff that I was used to doing, like driving. I couldn't drive because I got sick. So for that period of time, it was a struggle, but we got through it as a family. And, you know, luckily we have friends and family who were able to help, but they can only help for so much. And so yes, a lot of it fell on me. And my parents are like always so grateful, and I'm grateful for them because, you know, they helped me when I was sick. And I know it's not about keeping score of who helped who or whatever, but it was hard. And so that 4 months I was sick, it was really hard because I wasn't working because I couldn't work because I was so sick and I got dizzy and all that stuff. And then at the same time too, at one point my mom and my dad had to have surgery kind of close together. So my mom had I think it was her hip surgery, and then my dad had to get surgery on his neck. So while my mom was recovering, my dad was going for surgery. So my mom, you know, she was at home and my dad was in the hospital. So I had to be both. So, and then on top of that, we have dogs and cats, and I'm working and all this stuff. So it was a lot. Thank God my middle brother came down to help me because I needed help because I couldn't be at 2 places at once. So my brother was like, you know what, why don't I come down, I can stay with mom. He's like, I know I can't drive or anything, but I can stay with mom, and then you can be in the hospital with dad. So I said, okay, perfect. So he came down, which I'm forever grateful for. He's come down so many times and helped. So the day of my dad's surgery, it was my dad's surgery, and then I also had to take the dog to the groomers. So I literally dropped off my dad at the hospital. I drove my dog to the groomers. Then me and my dad went to the hospital. I had to get them all set up. And of course, you know, it doesn't always go to plan, and they took a bit longer. So while he was waiting, my dog was ready for pickup. So I had to drive all the way back, pick up my dog, drop her off at home, come home, check on my mom, make sure she was all good, make sure she was fine. She was. Thank God it wasn't in the wintertime because I know my mother, she would try to shovel and I have to yell at her. So she was upstairs on the couch. She was fine. I had a neighbor come and check up on her a few times throughout the day, which she did, which I'm forever grateful for. And then go back to the hospital. So I stayed at the hospital like all from, 9 o'clock, and then I came home for about an hour just to check on my mom, maybe like an hour, 2 hours to check on my mom, make sure she was eating, taking her medication. drove back to the hospital, stayed there for the rest of the day because like I said, my dad was having surgery, and I wanted to make sure that if something happens, I'm close by. So I was there until about 10:30, 11, because there was a mix-up in where we were supposed to be and like who's contact. But anyways, we figured that all out. And so then my middle brother said, okay, I'll come the next day because he had to work. So he's like, why don't I come down the next day? I can see his mom and then you can be at the hospital. So I'm like, perfect. So like I said, my brother came down, he looked after mom. My dad was in the hospital. I think he was there for about 2 to 3 days, and then I got to bring him back home. So yeah, I never knew, like, the ongoing joke is that people like in our family like, okay, you guys cannot be sick. So after that whole experience, I'm like, okay, you guys cannot be sick at the same time together anymore, because I cannot do it. I cannot handle having both of y'all down, because I had to take my mom to her appointments, I had to take him to the appointments, we had to coordinate. Thank gosh we have a book that has, like, we write down everybody's appointments. And I would say the last year, because like I said, my dad had lost his toe, so we had nurses, physiotherapists, PSWs, like we had so many people coming in and out of the house that, you know, when people knocked at our door, we were always so confused because nurses would, like, everybody just walked in because like I said, I work night shifts, so I'd be sleeping, and if my mom had like an appointment or something that she had to go to and my dad was upstairs, he couldn't go to the door, so the nurses just walked in. So, and you know, friends and stuff would just walk in. So when people come to our door, like, not our regular nurses would just come, and when it wasn't our regular nurse and they would knock, it freaked me out. I'm like, who the heck is at my door? Like, people just walk in. But like, we're so grateful for all the nurses and all the staff, like people who helped. But it's been tough because, you know, so my dad lost his toe in April, May of last year, 2025, and unfortunately we had to bring him back to the hospital a few times. You know, I have learned so much though, medical stuff. It's crazy, like PICC lines, there's different antibiotics. Like, I didn't know, like, my dad was on this one antibiotic, so it was like in a ball form, and that one was kind of cool and neat. Then he was on a pump first. That one was it was like, I get it, but it was so annoying because it would beep at random times and all this stuff, and he felt more cage. I guess he felt more at home, but I don't know. I liked the pump, but at the same time I didn't like the pump. And then he had the ball, which was like, it took about, I don't know, like, so anyways, that's to say, it's been a rough year. Plus then he was going to the hyperbaric chambers, which surprisingly made a big difference on how his toe healed. But unfortunately, because he is diabetic, you had to keep his blood sugar at a certain point, and for some reason, some days we just couldn't do it. And so either we couldn't go in because it would be too low, and because you had to, I think it was like you had to be at a 9 because the hyperbaric chamber would drop your blood sugars and stuff. So we did that for quite a while. I think we started, I could be wrong, in October till about November, December. And it was a lot of work because it was like you had to make sure his blood sugar was up, then drive all the way down to the place, get him get him undressed. Like, he had to get undressed, then he had to help make sure his blood sugar is still fine, put him in a chamber. Then he had, like, I think it was like 2 hours. Then you had to go back, pick him up, help him with, like, he had to get dressed and all this stuff, and then they'd bring. It was a lot, and my mom, like, God bless her, she did a lot. But it was so hard because you had to not only go around his schedule for the doctors, but also my schedule for work. I'm lucky enough and I was blessed enough that I have a job now that's like a week on, week off. So I work a week and then I was off a week. But it was a lot, because not only did, because my mom had to take a lot of it on because my dad's also hard of hearing. So a lot of appointments my mom had to go with him because he couldn't hear the doctors. And then I would have to go and then relay everything back to my mom, because so also during this whole time, my mom, like I said, my parents were selling the house in Florida. So she was in Florida trying to get everything done down there so that they could sell. So a lot of it did fall on me, and I felt it was really hard because I'd be sleeping and he was home by himself because he couldn't drive. He couldn't really go for walks because, he was so unbalanced, and it made us nervous. So I don't know how we made it through. And then in December, he went to a physical rehab. So he was staying there for about almost a month, not even a month, to help build his strength. Now, he's doing so much better. We went to the doctors. He was able to walk to hospitals. He went slowly, but he was able to do it, which I'm so proud of. And then, but it's been a lot of, crazy enough, it's been a lot of blood work. Like, all the doctors want blood work. But then it's also a bit frustrating because different doctors would want different things, but we don't know who asked for it. Like, my dad just went for a nerve test, which I've never heard before. So he did a nerve test, but I forgot to ask who ordered it. See, that's the thing, like, we had to get really, like, organized. So we have a book where it has my dad's appointments, my appointments, and my mom's appointments. That way we know, okay, let's say he had, on Monday he has an appointment and another doctor wants to have an appointment. We're like, okay, well, if we want it Monday, it has to be after this time because we have another doctor's appointment. And so that was hard. And then at the same time, not only are we focusing on the toe and all this other stuff going on with his leg, we were worried about the cancer. And luckily the cancer didn't spread. It's small enough. It wasn't, like, the doctor wasn't worried about it, which we're that makes us so happy. But a lot came from his leg. At first we thought he was actually going to lose his leg for the longest time, and my dad was in denial, and there was, my parents were fighting about it because my dad was in denial, my mom's like, no, and then my mom was like more factual because she was a nurse. So there's been times where I had to, like, step in and, like, be like, guys, like, arguing is not gonna do anything. Let's just take, and I get it. Like, he was scared, my mom was scared, I was scared. It was just a lot. And so now, things are calm. Knock on wood. Things are calming down. So I was like, so my mom and her friend were planning to go to Cuba, but unfortunately my dad got very sick and very confused and all this stuff. So finally my mom and her friend, like, we want to go away, and my mom needs it. Like, my mom needs this vacation. So I said, Mom, go and enjoy your time, get away from everything, we'll be fine. And then of course the time she wanted to go, I also had to get 3 teeth removed. So luckily though, like, I had it earlier in the week and I was fine by the time she left, so that was good. But and then he had 1 appointment. So the appointments are slowing down now, which has been great, but it's a lot. But, and even though everything's starting to slow down now, it's still a lot of work. And so and I actually had to talk to somebody. Like, I had to talk to a therapist because your girl had a lot going on, and you know, there is resources out there for help and support with whatever you need. You just gotta reach out and ask for the help. And I know like some people don't have advantage of having other family members or a partner or whatever to lean on. I mean, I'm a single girl. I don't have a partner or anything. Me and my siblings are sporadic, like spread out, so it's a lot harder. But you know, I talked to my doctor, and my doctor's like, you should talk to somebody, and also to take care of yourself. If you are a caregiver or whatever, you have to take care of yourself, because you can be useless for the person you're trying to help. And I learned that the hard way. And now, you know, getting my creative juice of doing the podcast again, because I took almost a year off. You know, go for walks. You just gotta do a little bit for yourself. And it's not always easy, and it's difficult, but sometimes you just gotta say, you know what, I need a break too. And so that's why, you know, I get to do my podcast, which helps. I play with Legos, I color, I do my research, I watch YouTube, I do all that. And in the summertime it's much easier because like I can go out more and stuff like that. In the wintertime I'm a bear. I like to hibernate. I do not like going out. So like yesterday I went to a Galentine party because my dad was doing better, and that's the first time in a long time I actually went out, and I stayed out longer, because to me it's like, if my mom and I went out, I was like, okay, is dad gonna be okay? Like, how long can we be out, because we don't want him to be lonely and all this stuff. And it was so much fun, and I had such a great time, and I was so happy I went. But you have to do stuff for yourself. And I know it's not always easy, but there is resources out there to help. You just gotta reach out and ask for help. And it's not easy. Like, I struggled with that, and then finally, because I was finding myself getting angry at the most ridiculous thing, like taking my dogs for a walk. I would get mad at them for smelling. Well, that's their dogs. That's what's gonna happen. So I reached out and I was talking to a therapist, which I was very glad I did. But now I get to do stuff again that I love, like the podcast, because I did take a break. Playing The Sims. I love playing Sims, but I never had time. But now it's like, okay, now that everything's, you know, slowing down, everything's not perfect, but it's slowing down, I get to do stuff for myself. And it's not easy, and I know that. But reach out, get some support, and know you're not alone. Like, I know it feels like you are, and there are times where I feel like I'm alone because, you know, my siblings have, like, I mean, we all work. My siblings have families, so I feel kind of isolated because I'm the only one who's a single, don't have kids, nothing like that. Which, yes, some people are like, well, you should have family. I'm like, I'm happy. Just feel like, yes, it was, you know, going through all that was a hurdle, but like it made me grow as a person. And like I said, it's hard because I know when my parents were getting older, I knew there was gonna be some, you know, health and whatever, but I didn't think how quickly it would go. So that, I think what threw me is that I didn't expect them to get sick so fast. But, you know, you just gotta ask for help. Try, even if it's 10-15 minutes, do something for yourself. Like I said, whether it's doing your skincare or playing with Legos, playing Sims, doing research, coloring, whatever makes you happy, do it. Play video games on Xbox or your Switch, like whatever makes you happy. You have to take out that time for yourself and tell people, I need this break because I can't take care of you if I don't take care of myself. And just know you're not alone, and I hope this helps somebody. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully, if you guys would like another follow-up, I can do another one later on. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and watching, and I love you, and just know that you're not alone. There's people out there who get it and can help, so please reach out for help if you need it. Thanks guys, bye.